What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Sunday, December 20th. Oh, yes, that's right. The rare late season Saturday slate that brings us together as we prepare to recap the Bills, Broncos, and Packers, Panthers games. And of course, you can check out the Picks Podcast to get you ready for week 15 in the feed, where we give out our best bets for the week. I haven't given away. We got plenty left in there. Don't worry about missing anything. You should worry, though, about missing out on winning a bunch of great, cool swag, courtesy of CBS Sports and Westinghouse. We have teamed up with them to give away 10 prizes for the holidays, including a curved gaming monitor and a portable power station, perfect for tailgates. Go to cbssports.com/happy holidays to enter. I'll put the link in the episode description so you can just click on it. The contest ends December 25th. Remember, cbssports.com/happy holidays. All right, happy holidays to Ryan Wilson and John Breech. Ryan joining us. Finally, he's not getting a little free vacation on Saturdays when he travels to Stanford. They're putting him to work. They said enough is enough. You'll be working on Saturdays, Wilson. You had to cover the NFL games when you went down there for your little weekly sojourn. And, of course, John Breech. What's up?
Wilson, I think you should respond first because he just grilled you for just being so lazy on Saturdays and finally having to work.
Yes, usually I do respond first, John, and usually you interrupt me. So this time I was going to let you respond first, and then you had nothing to say, which is typical John Breech. Yeah, no, I'm here covering some football. It was actually a great day to be in Stanford, Connecticut. You don't hear that every day because not only were there 2 NFL games, there were a bunch of good college football games. So win-win for me.
There you go.
Thanks for your quick response. What a day of football, though. I mean, a day of sports, really. I mean, just wall to wall. Intense sporting competitions, and we will start with of course we'll just cover the NFL games, and we will start with the Bills and the Broncos game. The Bills put a beat down on Denver 48-19. Obviously they covered the 6. Obviously they covered the 48.5 total, and Josh Allen 41 fantasy points. Melvin Gordon was next up. The Bills win the AFC East for the first time since 1995. They're now 11-1 to win the Super Bowl, 5-1 to win the AFC, tied with the Steelers for the second best odds. Are the Bills the team to take down the Chiefs, Breech?
Absolutely. You know, we talked about it a little bit last week, just saying that if there was one team in the AFC, sorry to Ryan Steelers, who I think we pegged down at like 5th or 6th place, it absolutely feels like it's the Buffalo Bills. You look at all the weapons they have. They put up 48 points on the Broncos. You know, the Broncos playing at Mile High, their defense doesn't get beat like this often. Even Patrick Mahomes only put up 43 points on them earlier this season in Denver, and they just kind of move the ball at will. Stephon Diggs, he catches anything thrown his way, and if for some reason you start double teaming him, then Josh Allen will find Cole Beasley, who's the best at sneaking around the field, showing up where you least expect it, and then catching any pass that's thrown his way. So this Bills offense looks like they can play in the game if it turns into a shootout, which is what you need to have when you're playing the Chiefs. And the defense seems to be getting better every single week, although it did look like there were a few injury concerns toward the end of the game when it felt like a Bills defensive player was going down like every play over the past the last 6 minutes. So hopefully everyone is healthy, but it does absolutely feel like the Bills are the team that could knock off the Chiefs if there is going to be one in the AFC that knocks off the Chiefs.
So Josh Allen has thrown touchdown passes to 12 different receivers. Who do you think he's thrown the most touchdown passes to this year?
Dawson Knox.
Cole Beasley. Is Dawson Knox?
So the layup sounds like Stephon Diggs. Clearly it's not because I asked that question. Gabriel Davis, rookie, has 6 touchdown passes.
Oh.
Steph Diggs is second with 5. Breech mentioned those injuries. Steph Diggs ended up in the locker room with a foot injury, so we don't know the extent of that. Or at least I didn't get a chance to look it up on Twitter, so I don't know if there's been any updates on that. But right, that's a concern. If you lose a guy who has 111 receptions this year, which leads the NFL, that could be problematic. But again, Josh Allen's been balling out. And I will say this to follow up on what Breech said. So I think the Bills clearly are the best team, the team best suited, assuming Josh Allen plays up to snuff, to beat the Chiefs. The other teams, the Steelers, they can't run the ball, and Big Ben throws the ball 40,000 times a game for half a yard each time. The Colts, Phillip Rivers, can he do it? I don't know. Can the defense show up if they're healthy? I don't know. The Titans, the run game can absolutely wear down the Chiefs. Their defense sucks so bad that I feel like Patrick Mahomes will score 100 points on them. last year's Titan defense and this year's Titans offense, I think would probably be ahead of the Bills, but we're clearly not there yet. I don't think the Browns or the Dolphins are quite yet in that conversation. So yeah, it's the Bills for me. The biggest concern isn't the defense. The biggest concern is if the moment's too big for Josh Allen in the playoffs against a team like the Chiefs. The moment hasn't seemed big at all to Josh Allen at any point in the last 6, 7, 8 games. So I don't think so, but we have to wait and see what actually happens when the game's played.
It was interesting. I saw that somebody pointed out on Twitter, as people are wont to do, that it appeared as if Josh Allen may have been pointing up to John Elway's luxury box after each touchdown he scored. I had never really thought about this. I don't think Josh Allen grew up a 49ers fan.
And he played in Laramie, which is a couple hours away. So maybe his friends or family or someone's nearby in the stands.
Well, but the Broncos passed on him.
Right. I understand why he
Bradley Chubb. Maybe he was pointing at a family and friend. That's entirely possible. It does. I don't know. It never really occurred to me that the Broncos might be a Josh Allen revenge game. But when you kind of think about it, it makes a little bit of sense that he might want to get some vengeance on him. And he did it, man. And it did feel like the Bills kind of kept things open throughout this entire game. Now the late Devin Singletary touchdown run was obviously, not, Matt Barkley's in there, so it didn't matter, but it did feel like
mattered for me,
really
my fantasy team.
It just felt like the Broncos were just poured it on the entire time. I mean, the Bills poured it on the entire time, and that this was absolutely, just what like Josh Allen wanted to show them something. Kind of felt that way. Is that crazy?
Well, it literally felt like we were watching a college game where Sean McDermott was worried about what their ranking was going to be after the game, or they were trying to get up in the college football playoff in the top 4. Because they did. They just kept piling on the points. They never took their foot off the gas. They were like, all right, Denver, you know what? We're up by 2 touchdowns. We want to beat you by 30 points. So, and they almost did. So
what if the strategy there was for the Josh Allen MVP push?
Ooh.
Aaron Rodgers ain't afraid to rack up stats. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Why not rack up some stats for Josh Allen? And by the way, you mentioned the Broncos not really doing much. Drew Lock had 99 first half passing yards, which whatever. He could certainly go off in the second half and make up for it. With about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, he had 100 passing yards. Here's how the second half started for Drew Lock. Sack, which was returned for a touchdown by Jerry Hughes when he picked up the fumble. The next pass went for -6 yards. And he needed on his final possession to go 1, 2, 3, 4. He completed 5 passes on the final possession for 37 yards to help him finish with 132 passing yards on the day. So he threw for 33 yards in the second half after starting with the fumble and throwing a pass for -6 yards, and then a couple passes later throwing one for -2 yards. So not quite the afternoon for Drew Lock that Josh Allen had.
No kidding. Do you think there's a chance? I mean, do you think there's a chance that Josh Allen could actually win the MVP?
I feel like when the odds, what are the odds right now?
It was like, I
don't think it's a bad idea to take a flyer on it, because as far as value goes, I feel like he's the best value. Aaron Rodgers did not have a great game on Saturday. Patrick Mahomes is playing the Saints tomorrow. There's no guarantee he's going to have a great game. And if Josh Allen comes out of this weekend having played the best game, and he's putting up numbers that Lamar Jackson put up last year, I think you at least have to put him in the conversation. I just don't feel like if he's in the conversation right now, it's a whisper. So I think that it'll be a 3-way race if Patrick Mahomes struggles at all tomorrow.
William Hill hadn't posted the odds yet, and I don't see anywhere else out there. So I would assume it's going to be a while. Allen was like 15-1 or 20-1 coming
15,
into this
I want to say 15. I didn't want to corner myself, but I think 15-1 coming into this game. I think that's
something 15 or 20-1. I mean, I think he was Russell Wilson might have fallen down he was I think Allen was actually 20-1. Russ was 15.
And Rodgers
was 2, and then Mahomes is like -250. Now look, if the Chiefs lose to the Saints on Sunday, but how is that not possible? Why are you shaking your head?
They have a quarterback with 14 broken ribs and no arms.
They could easily lose to the Saints. It's not out of control. It's a 2.5 point game.
It's not easily. No, they're not going to lose that game.
And we're not going to get caught up in the semantics about the nature of which the Chiefs and the Saints could lose. If the Chiefs lose to the Saints, which is entirely possible and in the realm of possibility,
Michael Thomas
And-
isn't playing.
What?
Michael Thomas isn't playing either.
Yeah, bet the Alvin Kamara over receptions, by the way.
Go ahead.
6.5. 6.5. That's it. With Drew Brees out there.
How many
Hammer.
catches? Oh, Devontae Smith was 6.5, and so was Steph Diggs was 6.5. Why is it 6.5 on all these guys?
Devontae Adams, you mean?
Yeah, who'd I say?
Devontae Smith. He's the Alabama
He
guy.
went over 6 too.
Yeah. He had 184 receiving yards. Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills defense really came together again. They had a Jerry Hughes had a touchdown on a scoop score. You know, they didn't allow the Broncos to do much. Noah Fant had the one touchdown, or I guess Melvin Gordon had the 2 rushing touchdowns. Noah Fant had one.
Noah Fant's touchdown was a great throw, great catch. But again, Drew Lock, you know, you're talking about is it Josh Allen a legit MVP? Is Drew Lock going to be the quarterback next year? I think that's a fair question to ask too, because they're going to have a top.
Vic Fangio going to be the coach next year?
Oh boy, that's another great question to ask. So right now, the Broncos have the number 10 pick. So there should be some quarterbacks sitting out there that.
Oh, by the way, excuse me. Debo points out Russell was 50-1 after last week. That's what I was thinking. I was like, that can't be right. No way, Russell. Remember, he was minus 150.
It's just
50.
And we were like, there's no way you can't stop Russell because he's cooking and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, like, if you look at what the Bills did, and you know, the Broncos were down to, you know, I mean, they were down to like practice squad guys at cornerbacks. I mean, like, cut them a little bit of slack. But you know, if you look at what the Bills did, I mean, really a very impressive effort all around. The one weakness they seem to have is that you can run on them because they're a little smaller on the interior, and that's it. I mean, if you know, Tre'Davious White banged up, that's a concern, but by and large, I mean, what is there not to like about this team? Cole Beasley, 112 receiving yards. Stephon Diggs, 147. They have tons of weapons, and John Brown isn't even healthy. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are a really nice 1-2 punch out of the backfield. I don't know that either one is necessarily a feature back per se, but they complement each other really well. Moss, more bruising. Singletary, so explosive. And again, the defense is coming together. Like this team can beat the Chiefs. And, you know, I think the Chiefs would win 7 out of 10. Maybe 6 out of 10.
I was going to say 6.5 seems like the line.
Yeah. But I mean, you mean the spread would be?
Yeah.
That's probably right.
Yeah, the spread, not the line. That's right.
I'm
would
probably
take
betting
the
the Bills. Yeah, I'm taking the Bills.
At 6.5. If it was like
6.5.
6.5 out of 10 games. That's what I mean.
Oh, that's confusing, Wilson.
So
What's wins over Wilson?
But you said the spread. That's weird.
No. You said 6 games, 7 games. And I was thinking, I think if you set the line for out of 10 games, how many would the Bills win?
Gotcha.
That line is 6.5.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. The over under for number of times out of 10 the Bills would win would be, or the Chiefs would win would be 6.5. But I mean, like, that's a pretty good number when you're talking about the Chiefs and how well they've been playing. It just feels like the Bills are peaking at the right time.
If you asked that question at the beginning of the season, it would be 9.5. So that's how far the Bills have come in 3 months, however long we've been doing this.
Absolutely. What else do we need to say about this game?
I mean, it's crazy that the Bills have won 7 of their past 8 games. Their only loss was on a Hail Mary.
Yep.
So you take that out. Like you said, they're peaking at the right time. That would be 8 straight wins. But even though it's only 7 out of 8, that's still incredibly impressive. They've beaten bad teams. They've beaten good teams. I mean, they beat the Seahawks. They're a good team.
And they
obviously
stomp bad teams too.
Yeah. They're not close, except for the Jets 1 game with 1 score. But divisional opponents are different because those games can go any way.
Does it matter whether they're the 2 or the 3 seed? Right now, the 2 seed, the Steelers are playing the Dolphins. The 3 seed, the Bills would play the Colts. Does it matter?
I forgot the Bills. So the Bills' 3 losses are 1 to Arizona that Breech pointed out. Then 2, they had that crazy Tennessee game on that Tuesday where they got blitzed 42-16. And then the next week they lost 17-26 to the Chiefs. So like they kept it within 9 points to the Chiefs. And
I don't even remember that Chiefs game.
I don't either. I was trying to think about it. God, I don't remember that. Was that Monday night?
That was a busy. I think we had 2 games because that was after they played their Tuesday game.
That was the Romo Nance in Kansas City on Monday, right?
No, I think Romo Nance was New England, Kansas City.
Oh,
yeah, I got nothing.
No, this is the 5 p.m. game on I think it was on CBS.
No, that it was on Fox because that was supposed to be the Thursday game that week, but then the Bills Titans game got moved to Tuesday, and then their Thursday game got moved to Monday.
There you go.
All right. Anyway, the point is, no one cares about this.
What was your original question, Wilson?
Would you rather be the 2 or the 3? Because right now the 2.
I don't think it matters.
Two seed plays the Dolphins. The 3 seed would play the Colts.
Well, let me add to Wilson's question. So we're talking about how the Bills got really banged up toward the end of this game. Does it matter to be the 2, 3, or even the 4? And if it doesn't, do you just, in a couple of your guys banged up, you just say, you know what, screw it. You guys just rest the next 2 weeks, get better. Because we don't care what seed we get, because it doesn't matter, because no one's getting a bye. We can't get the bye. So we'll just,
it's funny you say that, Breech, because I had someone tweet me and ask the same question about the Steelers. So the Steelers, the Bills, and the Titans are all going to rest people.
The Titans can still lose the 4 seed to the Colts.
Oh, right. And the Bills can technically still get the 1 seed if the Chiefs lose out and the Bills win out.
I think the Bills, again, we don't think it's likely, but it's possible that the Saints could beat the Chiefs on Sunday.
Right. So that will determine, I think, what the Steelers and Bills may have conversations about. Whether they do it or not, we'll see. But they'll certainly probably consider resting some guys that don't need to be playing.
When I pointed this out, God, it may have been on the after Thursday show. We talked about this on Thursday's show with the Steelers and the Bills and how the playoffs in week 17 might be weird. And I ended up tweeting with Greg Rosenthal of NFL Media about it. I think there's a really good chance that, yes, the Bills will absolutely rest. If the Bills are 1 game back of the Steelers for the 2 seed going into week 17, I think the Bills will rest everybody anyway. I don't think they'll care about it. I think they'd much rather be healthy and get that, get a bye week, so to speak, than risk injuring guys in week 17 to try and get the 2 seed instead of the 3 seed. Like, it doesn't, in fact, the logic for being the 3 seed would be that while the 2 seed gets the Dolphins, the 2 seed could also get the Ravens, which would be kind of a nightmare. Although I guess we think the Colts will probably be the 5 seed, right?
That could be the Browns, and whoever loses the AFC South could be the 5 seed. I think the only seed you don't want is the 4 seed, because if you're going to get the Chiefs in the second round, if you win your game. So if you want to avoid the Chiefs as long as possible, or maybe hope they get upset in the divisional round, then you want the 2 or 3 seed. Otherwise, I don't think there's any difference between the 2 or 3 seed. And so, like you guys are saying, if I'm the Bills and I find out after week 16 that I cannot get the number 1 overall seed, I am literally benching everybody for week 17. I'm letting the Dolphins run all over me. And I don't
the Steelers might be doing the same thing. If they can get past the Bengals on Monday night, I have to get that Ryan Finley tattoo. They'll have won the AFC North, and then they can let the Browns have their Super Bowl in week 17 and blow the doors off the Steelers.
And then it would be even funnier if there's a playoff spot on the line for the Browns and the Dolphins, because the Dolphins will be playing the Bills, resting their starters. The Browns will be playing the Steelers, resting their starters.
There you go. That could be what's interesting about week 17. Okay.
All right. So I'm just trying to think. So the Titans are 9-4.
Yep.
If they win this week, they're huge double-digit favorites with the Lions, although Matthew Stafford is supposed to start.
He gets hit twice, although he might not get hit at all. It's the Titans pass rush,
That's true. I'm just thinking if the Titans win this week and they're 10-4, I think your point about the Chiefs is huge, Breech. Because I don't believe you should ever try and play matchups like I don't think you should ever sit guys or start guys or mess with week 17 trying to get the best round 1 matchup. Like, to me, that makes very little sense unless there's just some obvious situation. Even what's that?
Work for Jeff Fisher.
I mean, even for the NFC East, did it work for Jeff Fisher?
No, but he had that whole thing about sitting starters in week 17, and then they lost the next week.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you're getting a matchup with the NFC East, I just don't think it necessarily. I just don't think it ever makes any sense. But I do agree that if Buffalo is 1 game ahead of Tennessee, and they're the 3 seed, and they're regardless of where they are with the Steelers, that it would behoove them to try to win week 17, because then you guarantee you can't see the Chiefs until the AFC Championship game. That's a big plus, right?
Don't be the 4th seed.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big plus, because if the Titans are the 4 seed, let's just say that the seeds are what they are right now, and then they play the Browns or the Colts in the wild card round. If let's say it's Titans Colts, because I think that would be the worst case scenario for the Chiefs, because I think the Titans and the Colts are 2 teams that could, obviously I think the Chiefs would probably win 8 out of 10 against both those teams, but I do think that
if you're the Chiefs, that's not who you want to see in the
right, because they can play ball control, just keep
physical run teams. Absolutely.
No defense, they crush them.
I mean, I think if you're Pittsburgh and Buffalo, you're looking at it as, all right, we would have ideally you want to have Cleveland and Miami. As good as Cleveland might be and as good as Miami might be, I think those are the teams you would rather play. So you'd rather be 2 and 3 and see 6 and 7. Now, obviously, if one of those teams wins, and it gets realigned still, right?
What do you mean?
Like Ryan. Let me just Ryan. If the Steelers beat the Bengals, they cannot be the 4 seed, or they can't fall below the Titans because they have the head-to-head over the Titans, and the Steelers will get the 12 wins, and the Titans can do 12 and 4 at best. Yeah. So at that point, do you bench everyone for 2 weeks, let everyone get healthy?
Yeah. Why not?
I think 1 week. 2 weeks is a lot. That's a long time not to
play them in the first half of this week.
No, you got to play them all in week 16.
Well, you play
you have the Colts in week 16.
Play the Colts, so maybe you want to try to win that. But if you hurt someone, I mean, I don't know. All right, you got to take a break. Let's go.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the other game that was really competitive. Okay, so the Packers and the Panthers played a game. The Panthers actually covered, surprisingly.
Quickly, 2 weeks. I've decided 2 week bye for the Steelers. Take those 2 weeks off. All right.
See, it's not this like the whole 7th playoff thing creates all these new scenarios of, you know what, maybe my team needs rest. This has been
quarterback's 100 years old. He needs like a 2 week vacation.
His knee is like stitched together with Kleenex wrappers.
Rudolph. We're gonna get some Chris Traps tweets. Mason Rudolph coming in.
All right, go ahead.
Packers beat the Panthers 24-16. This game, I don't know how this game was a 1-score game. It was never competitive.
It was 21-3.
It was a bloodbath. Aaron Rodgers actually lamented after the game how poorly they played and how that's not the way you got to play if you're trying to win a Super Bowl and all of that. I'll ask you this. My first question, because this is sort of what I was chatting with people about. What did we think about the Matt Rhule kicking there with 2:04 left on the game clock?
Oh, we were talking about this while you were trying to figure out how to turn your computer on. I was fine with it. Eric Casillas was asking the same questions Breech was getting from people in NFL chat room. So Breech, why don't you explain it? Because you did a good job of explaining it.
All right. I absolutely loved this decision. I think more coaches should do it. And this is like Greg Rhule has been all very analytical this year. And this is just one that makes sense. And here is why. So who caught the pass? DJ Moore. So DJ Moore catches a pass on 3rd and 1. You get down to the Packers 15-yard line. Runs out of bounds. There is 2:08 left. Okay. The Carolina Panthers have 1 timeout. You're down 2 scores. You have to score twice. So a big question was, why not take a shot to the end zone? So we'll just rewind real quick. Rhule says, you know what, we're going to kick the field goal. We're not taking any shots in the end zone. We're going to kick the field goal with 2:08 left. And the reason you do that is because you need the 2-minute warning as an extra timeout. Because if you don't have that 2-minute warning and the Packers get the ball back, you only have 1 timeout. The Packers can run probably 1:30 off at least. And then you're going to be stuck with like 20 seconds. So if you take a shot to the end zone with 2:08 left, if Teddy Bridgewater gets sacked, boom, it goes down to 2-minute warning. If the play goes long where he starts scrambling and then throws a dart into the end zone, boom, 2-minute warning. If Teddy Bridgewater sees someone open at the 8-yard line who is just wide open, says, I'm making the throw, I think he can get in the end zone, that guy gets tackled, boom, 2-minute warning. And then you end up kicking the field goal anyway, 1 or 2 plays later, then you're just back where you started. So now you kick the field goal, which took the clock down to 2:04. So then the next question is, do you kick the onside kick or do you kick it out of the end zone? And I tweeted this as soon as they were kicking the field goal, that if they're kicking the field goal, you have to do a touchback. That's the only thing that makes sense here. They're not going to do an onside kick, because if you kick the onside kick and Green Bay touches it or fields it and the clock goes down the 2-minute warning, that defeats the purpose of kicking the field goal. So the thing you want to do there is kick it out of the end zone. So now the Packers have to run a play on the opposite side of the 2-minute warning. Boom. They can only burn 4 seconds off. They run another play. You get your timeout, and then they can only run 1 full 40-second play out of 3 downs. And it was just
you're going to get the ball back with roughly a minute and change remaining.
Right. And so they ended up getting the ball back. They ran their first after the Packers went 3 and out. The Panthers ran their next play at the 55-second mark. If they had not done all this stuff with the 2-minute warning, they would have gotten it back with about minus 40 seconds, minus the time of a play. We'll say 5 seconds. They would have gotten the ball back with about 10 seconds left. And they would have had to go 80 yards, which is, unless you're completing some sort of Baker Mayfield 75-yard throw, Hail Mary, and not throwing out the ends. It's not happening. So 55 seconds at least gives you a chance.
Yeah, it was the problem is the argument against it is that when you kick the field goal, you are now down 8. And if you got the touchdown, so if you're down 11 and you score a touchdown, you're going to go for a 2-point conversion, right?
Yeah.
Yes. You need to know whether the whole principle behind this game theory stuff is you need to know whether or not you're going to get the 2-point conversion, because if you don't get the 2-point conversion after you score the touchdown, you are then not going to, you no longer need a field goal. You need another touchdown.
But you still
So the idea being that,
you have to get
and I mean, like I can kind of see it from Rhule's perspective. I'd love to hear some.
I'm not sure that your argument is right analytically. I would have to see the math, but I don't think what you're saying. I think what Rhule did is exactly right in terms of analytics. Like, I don't think your argument holds water analytically to what he actually did. I think he did it perfectly because he got the ball back literally with 55 seconds to go. I mean, that's best case scenario.
He lost. So,
well, that's just because the probability isn't 100% if you kick a field goal, you're going to win the game, but it increases your chances of winning as opposed to waiting until after the 2-minute warning.
But you know what I'm saying, right? Like I
hear what you're saying, but it's still a lot has to happen for that to work. And it seems like just anecdotally, a lot more has to happen in your case.
And the analytics of that fall apart the further along you get in. So like if there's 8 minutes left, that's the easy choice. Like you want to know how many points you need, but if you kick the field goal, you know you need 8 points. It's
I understand. Like if you get the field goal, you're going to get either way. The
mindset of your team is that we can absolutely still win this game.
Mindset doesn't play into the analytics. That doesn't.
Right. Yeah. But it plays into
saying
how your team's
I see what you're saying. Like you're only going to get one more possession.
Right.
But see, maybe that's an even better argument for why you should get the touchdown, because you need to know.
If you get the touchdown, you're going to have way less time when you get back.
But you have to get the touchdown in 8 seconds. You have to get it in 7 seconds because it has to happen before the 2-minute warning.
Get it on the other side of the 2-minute warning, then it
if you get it in 4 seconds, 3 seconds.
You have to get it before the 2-minute warning is what Breech is saying. And
then you get the time with the field goal was kicked. Yeah.
Right. So the field goal was snapped at 2:08. So if that's when the next offensive play would have happened, you would have had to score with 2:01. So you had 7 seconds to throw a touchdown pass. And if it hits the 2-minute warning, you're just not going to get the ball back with enough time.
Now, if you have 3 timeouts, I would imagine you probably still go for it there. I mean, you keep going down the field because
right. Yeah. That makes a huge difference. It's the fact that you can get the timeout at the 2-point conversion or the 2-minute warning, excuse me.
I think even if you have 2 timeouts, you probably would have taken, maybe gone. That's where it would get a little touchy and it could go either way. But at 1 or 0 timeouts, you didn't have a choice. You have to do it on the.
Because 2 or 3, like if you have 3 timeouts, 3 timeouts, you don't know if you can get that far down the field again. So you have ability to stop the clock, but I don't know what the math is after that.
I think at 0 timeouts, you have to go for the touchdown and then kick an onside.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, at that point, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, the percentage of getting an onside kick is so low that it does make sense to do what they did. I'm just saying, I think one of the things is important too with this, people talk about the analytics and all this stuff. Like all these there's no cut and dry right or wrong answer, even with the analytics. Some analytical models are more aggressively tuned than others and say go for it more often and do different things. You know what I mean? Like you can get varying responses from different analytical outputs. But I mean, having said all that, Matt Rhule wasn't just like farting around out there. He had to have a plan, right?
He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah. That's not something
the field goal team as soon as he didn't even think twice. He knew what he was doing as soon as they got in field goal.
This way. There's like this sort of this thing in like physics they talk about where like there are an infinite number of monkeys banging on typewriters. Eventually they'll bang out Shakespeare at some point. Right. Yeah. You could have infinite number of Freddie Kitchens. They are never in any circumstance going to call the plays that Matt Rhule called at the end of that game.
Yeah, either Matt Rhule's a genius or a moron. But that was the discussion. I think.
And I will say the Dolphins, they did something similar last week when they were playing the Chiefs. They were down 33-24. They got into field goal range. They kicked a field goal with 16 seconds left to cut it 33-27.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Because it also has to do with how much time is left on the clock overall. Because if you try to score a touchdown there and you scored 4 seconds left, you didn't really leave yourself any time. So that is part of the reason you take the field goal, because you can get the points now because you assume your kicker is going to make, anything inside 45 yards.
Did anything the Panthers do other than that? DJ Moore had 131 receiving yards. I thought Teddy Bridgewater was okay. I mean,
he's good. He's ran for at least one touchdown. I can't remember for him.
He's like a poor man's Alex Smith.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think they're living in the same neighborhood right next to each other.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Alex Smith he's just a modern Alex Smith.
I think football team would be slightly better with Teddy just because he's healthier. But I mean, again, half dozen of one. Like, it just depends. One day, Alex Smith's yard looks nicer because he just cut it. A week later, Teddy Bridgewater's yards looks nicer. But I will say this, something that is positive, that defense. Now, I don't know if that's just Aaron Rodgers and that offense going through the motions. And sometimes we've seen Aaron Rodgers not quite be in the mood to play football. It doesn't happen very often. We saw it in the Tampa Bay game in which they got the doors blown off. But I was telling Breech before you came on that the last 7 possessions before the end of the game, Packers punted 6 times and kicked a field goal. And that started with the last 2 possessions of the first half and leaked over into the second half where they did absolutely nothing.
The Packers only had 49 yards of total offense in the second half.
They crossed over the 50-yard line. So they scored 3 touchdowns to open up the game. Just bang, bang, bang.
That was it.
Great drives, ripping them up. And then they crossed the 50-yard line twice after that.
So this concerns me. I don't know if we are all in agreement that the Packers are still the best team in the NFC. That's actually a little murkier than the AFC, of course, with Kansas City. But here's what concerns me. I think they play the Titans next week, right? I think that's their next matchup.
Yeah.
So the Titans defense stinks. We know this. Guess what the Panthers defense is? Not great.
Yeah.
And the difference is that the Titans, they can control the ball with Derrick Henry. They can have 38 minutes of clock, have just Derrick Henry run over you for 38 minutes. They're going to have a chance to win this game. It's in Green Bay. I don't know if Tennessee cares about the weather so much. I mean, Nashville isn't always unicorns and rainbows weather-wise. So I don't think that'll be an issue. And I think they're sort of built to play in crappy weather. So the Packers can get right. But this is like a little red flag.
Well, and along those lines, the Panthers win in this game with the 6th fewest sacks in the NFL.
Yep.
They had 19 going into the game. They had 4 just tonight. So they got 20% of their total in one game against Aaron Rodgers. And then the Titans, you just mentioned, Ryan, actually have the fewest sacks in the NFL at 14. And Brinson, you mentioned the early touchdowns. I felt like the huge play in this game was the Teddy Bridgewater fumble. The Panthers
huge play.
14
Matt
to
Rhule
3.
was pissed about it too.
I mean, he should have been. You get down to the 1-yard line. If you're going to make the jump over the pile, you got to hold on to the ball. You can't fumble it. And if the Panthers score there, it's 14-10. But instead, Kevin King picks up that fumble, returns it 50 yards. The Packers score like 6 or 7 plays later. And all of a sudden, instead of 14-10, it's 21-3. And that was basically the ball game. I don't think any one of us thought that Carolina was going to come back from 21.
Was there any conversation about forward progress being stopped? Anyone bring it up anywhere?
I don't think. I think if there
No,
would have been
the
a whistle
forward progress refs were in the Florida-Alabama game.
Oh, I didn't see that forward progress problem.
You serious?
I didn't see the whole game because I was working.
Oh, Lord. Kyle Trask. God. I mean, it's fumbled on the one. Alabama scooped it up. They're like, yeah, forward progress. What are you going to do?
Oh, I saw that. I didn't know they called it back. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So
all right.
Yeah, the Bridgewater thing, Matt Rhule said afterwards, he's like, one of the things about our program is we don't reach the ball over the goal line. It's like this. He's very adamant about it. Very
sounds like something Belichick would say.
I had no idea he was so adamant about not reaching the ball over the goal line.
Did Teddy know that?
Teddy should have said, well, maybe if you called a better play and didn't ask
Teddy apologized to his teammates about it.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I know why you do it. I know why you tell them not to do it.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Packers is I think the Packers can give anybody a good run if they play at their highest level. You can run on them, though.
Here, let me ask you the question that Eric Casillas asked on HQ. Which team is best suited in the NFC, the National Football Conference, to beat the Packers?
The Buccaneers.
Ugh, that's what EK said.
I think the Rams you could put on that list.
Rams too, yeah.
Now the Rams is what Jamie Eisenberg said. EK took the Buccaneers. I took the Seahawks.
Who'd Pete Prisco take?
It was just me, Pete, and EK.
Oh, Pete's not working because it's Saturday.
That's the first thing for the podcast.
The ball is sticking in his hands and said, up and away. Dipsy do, dunk
Well, it just with the way the Packers schedule set up, they
Hold on
only
one
have
second. Hold on.
one win.
Devo, please cut that and send it to Pete so he can get angry. All right, go ahead.
Pete's threatening to boycott the Pick Show and never come on the podcast again until I pay him his $200.
Just the way the Packers schedule set up, they only have one win over a team with a winning record. So you don't know.
We'll know next week.
Well, yeah, I mean, we will know next week because they lost to the Colts and they lost to Tampa Bay and then they beat New Orleans. So they're 1-2 when playing teams that currently have a winning record. And yeah, obviously the Titans are.
I'll say this. This is my argument for the Buccaneers not being that team. That offense hasn't showed up all year. That's a concern. I think we all agree the concern with the Rams is Jared Goff. We just don't know which Jared Goff's showing up. And the concern with the Seahawks, of course, is which Seahawks team is going to show up, the early team or the late team. I keep making this point, Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Lewis are finally getting after the quarterback. Is that enough? I don't know.
I think to beat the Packers, you want to be a physical defense that smacks them in the mouth, and they just kind of wilt up. And
Buccaneers fans are so angry with the way Todd Bowles has been calling these games recently. I don't know if they're getting the most out of their defense.
Well, and the crazy thing about a game like this is if you thought the Packers were going to struggle is because they were going to come out flat, but it was the opposite. Like they came out on fire, scored 21 points in their first 3 possessions, and then did nothing the rest of the game. And that you don't usually see it that way. If they're going to struggle, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah, so that's true. Yeah, they're in good shape now. They are 11-3. Although, Rodgers saying what he said after the game, seriously, he was like, we didn't play that well. He's like, that's not what you want to see. That's not how you want to play. They should have blown out the Panthers and Carolina had the chance to come back and tie it at the very end. So that
we're also at the point in the conversation where any bad game, any bad half, any bad quarter, we just blow it out of proportion. It's just one game.
They beat a bad team. That's all you have to do. Just get the win.
They did this last year a lot too.
Last year, even though Breech loved him last year, I don't know if you ever heard him talk about that. They weren't as good as they were this year. They were running the ball a lot. Like Rodgers.
No, I agreed with you with Brinson. I said they were frauds. The only thing I said was that I picked them to go to the NFC title game last year.
Oh my God. How did you squeeze it in again? The Saints can take care of the Packers too. The Saints defense is playing a lot better than it was.
I am worried. You're not worried about Drew Brees
playing Sunday afternoon after puncturing his lung and breaking 11 ribs. That guy shouldn't be playing football for like 6 months.
He's my age.
Are you kidding me?
He's fine.
Wilson, how long would it take you to heal from 3 broken ribs, let alone 11?
I wouldn't go to play my old man soccer league. I would have to retire. Done. They'd have a Hall of Fame ceremony.
Actually could give the Packers a little trouble is Washington.
No, stop it.
I think we've now named everyone in the NFC
that
is qualified for a playoff position, except for Arizona.
Yeah, not Seattle, not Arizona.
No, I said Seattle.
Wilson said Seattle.
Anything else we need to cover?
Are the Packers going to get the number 1 seed?
Yes.
They get the bye. They're good.
The Packers 6.5 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Now the Chiefs are plus 180 to win the Super Bowl. Hilarious. Saints 7 to 1. Bills 11 to 1. Rams 11 to 1. Steelers 11 to 1. Bucks 14. Seahawks 14. Ravens 16. And Colts 28.
Man, that Colts.
I like that Colts number.
That's
go ahead.
Sexy number.
Put $1 million on it. You'll be rich.
$1 million? Well, if I had $1 million to bet on the Colts at 28 to 1, I'd already be rich.
That's
up high, down hard.
I can't rebut because Breech keeps interrupting me.
I laughed. I didn't interrupt at all. That was the funniest thing Brinson said on the podcast.
Put $1 million on it, you'll be rich.
Wilson, you rarely get the dunk with the onions in your face, but Brinson got you there.
Yeah.
All right, great. We'll talk about it in 24 hours.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll be back, of course, Sunday night tonight to recap the full day of action. Subscribe, rate, review. Talk to you guys later.